As in the case in the world of professional wrestling, you are free to choose. However, you are not free from the consequences of your choice. As we all know, everyone loves a good old high-flying move, whether it's something more simple, like a top rope splash, or something a lot more complex and amazing to watch, like the Red Arrow, 630 senton, or the double moonsault. However, there is one move in professional wrestling that should have been banned years and years ago, and that is the diving headbutt. The move that Harley Race accidentally invented and has since stated that he has regretted creating due to the injuries he and other wrestlers have suffered by implementing it into hundreds of their matches. The diving headbutt is an impressive move, however, it is extremely dangerous, as it consists of a wrestler jumping off the 8-foot tall top rope straight down with their cranium connecting either with the opponent's head, their shoulder, or if they miss, even the mat. Now, the best case is that the wrestler who does it for hundreds of times will suffer a few concussions. And worst case is that their career could be ended or even their life, as has been the case with many of the wrestlers who have implemented it into their moveset. Now, Harley Race was the founder of the diving headbutt and almost had to retire early because of it, as he suffered major injuries and concussions from performing the move. So when his career was at its point, at its end, that was a move that was thrown out first. And because of that, he was able to live until the age of 76 and was even able to wrestle for several more years. And he literally just did a falling one, where he just fell forward with it. In modern times, wrestlers are leaping off the top rope now. The next wrestler's experience with the move is even worse. The Dynamite Kid has been proclaimed to be one of the most innovative wrestlers of all time by numerous different professional wrestlers, including the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be, Bret Hart. However, Dynamite's life was far from easy or even good. Due to the side effects from taking steroids at an early age, he became extremely aggressive and even dangerous to himself and others. Mick Foley has described how in his second match of his career, Dynamite clotheslined him into the ropes and hit him with such a stiff clothesline that it dislocated the Hardcore Legend's jaw, and he wasn't able to eat solid food for weeks. Now, Dynamite then went on to consistently and constantly shove firearms into his wife and kids' faces and abuse them. Dynamite's aggressive behavior could have been caused by his upbringing or his steroid abuse or like his personality. However, what we know, Dynamite's aggressive behavior could have been caused by his upbringing or his steroid abuse or his personality as a whole. However, what we do know is that his career was ended and his life changed by the diving headbutt. Performing the move for years had severely damaged his vertebrae, and whilst running the ropes and jumping over his opponent on a simple drop-down spot, Dynamite broke his back. And even though he was able to wrestle again, it was the beginning of the end. And I can make a whole other video about the downfall of the Dynamite Kid. However, I won't go into all that. So the broken back resulted in him going further and further down the spiral, and eventually resulted in his leg getting amputated and Dynamite being forced to use a wheelchair. He died in 2018 at the age of 60. Now, the next wrestler to use the diving headbutt is possibly the most infamous and hated wrestlers of all time. And unfortunately, he looked up to Dynamite. Okay. Again. The next wrestler to use a diving headbutt is possibly the most infamous and hated wrestlers of all time. He looked up to the Dynamite Kid and wanted to be just like him. And unfortunately, he did become just like Dynamite. only in their private lives and was much, much worse than Dynamite ever was. And that wrestler is Chris Benoit. Chris Benoit was an amazing wrestler with an intensity that no one could match. So the diving headbutt really suited his style. However, the move caused irreparable damage to his brain. Chris himself said in 2016 that he had more concussions than he could count. It was only a year later where he would commit the despicable and unforgivable double murder-suicide that shocked everyone. During his autopsy, scientists found that Chris suffered from CTE, caused from repeated blows to the head, claimed to be from headshots from chairs. However, it's more likely that it was from the diving headbutt, possibly performed hundreds of times over the 1,000 matches he's had over his career. And actually, the scientists who examined his brain said that it resembles an 85-year-old man with advanced stages of dementia, even though Chris was only 40 years old at the time. And what followed that horrible weekend in 2007 was a horrible thing. And I won't go into like the details in this video, but like I really pray that Nancy and Daniel Benoit have found their peace up in heaven. And the main scientist who examined Benoit's brain has said that if he had been anything but a wrestler, he would have been alive today. However, I don't believe in that entirely, as millions of people have gotten into wrestling. And thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands have made a successful career off of it for like literally centuries. So, and this tragic event has only happened once. So I believe that was the diving headbutt which was a catalyst for it. However, it could be anything. We really don't know. Okay, on a lighter note, the next wrestler is alive and well, and is the reason why I'm making this video at all, and that is Daniel Bryan, currently Bryan Danielson in AEW. And much like the other wrestlers on this list, Daniel Bryan is considered one of the best wrestlers on the planet, and is definitely one of the most popular. However, back in 2016, Daniel Bryan was forced to retire from WWE due to not informing the doctors of his history of concussions. And ever since Chris Benoit's autopsy, WWE has been very, very serious about concussions, as they should be. So Bryan was forced to retire and became the general manager of SmackDown Live. He was eventually able to return to the squared circle and ended up wrestling in the main event of WrestleMania 37 before leaving WWE for AEW and having the best matches of his life with Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley, with the latter being the inspiration for this video. Now, whilst watching Bryan Danielson versus Jon Moxley at AEW Revolution, Danielson went for his diving headbutt, and even though it didn't connect, it could have easily led to Danielson being forced to retire early once again. They say that those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it, and unfortunately, the history of the diving headbutt is dark, and has been repeated many, many times before. Now, every wrestler who has used this move has had either their career or their lives of themselves or their loved ones ended or shortened. The fact that the creator of this move came out years ago and stated that he regrets even creating it is a big indicator as to why this move should be banned. To this day, there are still countless wrestlers who continue to add this controversial move to their repertoire and inherit the risk and responsibility that comes along with it. As in the case in the world of professional wrestling, you are free to choose. However, you are not free from the consequences of your choice.